Happy Wednesday night and welcome to A Look on the Plus Side. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys for being with us. We appreciate it. If you haven't joined us before, this is where we go into the Disney Plus catalog or something similar. We find a movie to review and we talk about it. And tonight we are talking about the 1951 Alice in Wonderland. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. It's the Park Adventures Club. We have a lot of fun. We'll tell you what's coming up near the end of the show. And then also give us a like because it helps people to find us. We are live tonight, so if you're live with us, please chat along with us in the chat. Tonight's special guest host, it's Stephanie. How are you, Stephanie?
Hi, Rob. I've gone down the rabbit hole for this movie, so I hope it's going to be a good episode.
Wait, is today your own birthday?
It's my unbirthday. Is it your unbirthday?
It is my happy unbirthday to you. To
Me
me? To
too.
you? It's fine. There's a lot of fun to be had in this movie, and I can't wait to talk about it. Everybody, just grab your popcorn, hang around. We got a lot of stuff to talk about and unpack from every side of this thing. But the big news from this one is it is going to be 75 years old this year. That's why you picked it, I believe, is it's 75 years old.
Yes.
So did you see it when it first came out?
How old do you think I am?
When did you first remember seeing this movie? Why'd you pick it?
Oh, I picked it because it holds a special place in my heart. I think when you become a mother and you identify with the little girl Alice character, you see, her kind of journey through the film and especially through the book. You see her growing up and becoming more comfortable with herself. But I don't know. I don't remember. I guess I was a kid myself whenever I first saw it. It wasn't really one that we would go to. Sleeping Beauty is my all-time favorite, of the classic Disney cartoon movies, but this one is a up there. It's up there.
Yeah. If there's one thing I know about you, Stephanie, is that you don't go over the top when it comes to birthday parties, celebrations, things like that. You shared with me a
No, not
picture.
at
Is it
all.
okay if I share this picture from your
Oh,
daughter's birthday
sure.
party? This is your this
Yeah.
is your little girl on her first birthday. Was that what this was?
Yes. Sadie in Wonderland, O-N-E.
That is way over the top for a 1 year old birthday party. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, maybe not. Maybe not. You mean when it's 1 year
It
old,
was
you do
fun.
it for you, not necessarily for them. But it is freaking
Correct.
adorable. She's adorable.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that picture with us. I appreciate it. Alice in Wonderland is one of those things like Nightmare Before Christmas where there is a cult following that people get tattoos and people get all the merch and sometimes I wonder if some of them aren't into it just for the vibes of it because it has a very unique vibe as far as the colors, the weirdness, the wackiness of it. What do you think it is that draws people to just the Alice in Wonderland culture before we get into the movie?
Good
Is it the movie
question.
itself?
I
Because I
don't
don't think it is.
Well, I think the movie came out at a very good time, but that, like you said, the culture was before that because he Lewis Carroll wrote this, many years prior to Disney even wanting to create this into any kind of film or television show. So I'm not sure what it is about just childhood and imagination and wonderment maybe as far as the culture goes, but I think it came out as far as the movie at the right time because we're about to hit 1951 was right before the 60s, psychedelic 60s. So
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy that this year, 2026, is an anniversary for so many movies. Last week, we did Labyrinth. It was the anniversary of Labyrinth this year. But like Dumbo is 85, 101 Dalmatians 65. And again, anniversary, I feel like it's on the fives. That's how Disney celebrates them. That's how we celebrate them a lot of times. High School Musical is 20. Dude, I mean, that's nuts. We're gonna have to get Patrick on talk about High School Musical because he is definitely a fanboy. Surprisingly, Zootopia and Moana are 10.
that's
Like,
insane to me.
right? And then Encanto, Raya, and Luca are 5. So Yeah, it's crazy about the anniversaries. So we're going to try to touch on a lot of anniversaries on a look on the plus side. But right now, we're going to talk about this one. And let's go to the stat board first on this one. So this movie came out in July 28th, 1951. Now, that date is a little bit weird because July 26th, it opened in London. July 28th, it opened in New York. And then in September, it was nationwide. So I'm going with the New York date. The runtime goes all the way across the board, too. If you look at Disney Plus, it tells you it's an hour, 22 minutes. Everywhere else has it listed at 75, so I'm going for 75. It's rated G, and then the box office on it was 2.4 million, and then that was the original release of it. It got re-released in 74 and on, but it was 2.4 million in its first, and its budget was 3 million, which tells you this didn't go over well at the box office. Yeah, and like a lot of Disney movies, Fantasia, for one, Tron, like movies that didn't do huge, but then became like these cult classics after the fact, that people love and can't get enough of. So when I when I was going through, I have a DVD copy of this movie. That was like the original like DVDs, the Gold Collection Disney Classic. And what I realized when I pulled this off the shelf is it is still in the cellophane. So like I literally,
Oh no.
I had never
Can't open
opened.
it.
Well, I can't open it now, obviously. Um,
Right.
but with Disney Plus, we can watch it whenever we want to. But one of the things that strikes me, and I mentioned this 2 weeks ago when my friend Dave and I reviewed Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, is that there are some movies that I feel like we have this almost Mandela effect in our head as Disney fans, where we grew up on Disney, we watch Disney, we go to the parks, we experience Disney, but sometimes I'll sit down and watch one of these movies again, like this one, and go, have I ever seen this movie? Like, I know I have. Like, I know I have. I've seen this movie. But there are scenes in it where I'm like, huh? Like, there's stuff that I forgot. I mean, like, or maybe never, like, grasped. But did you feel that when you rewatched this one?
Oh, definitely. I look, my kids, it's interesting as you age too, you pull things out that you normally would have just, like you said, not paid attention to when you're younger. So I think that as a parent, I'm looking at it from that perspective, and I'm watching her do all these things, and I'm like, I don't know if, I would have picked up on that as a kid. And I definitely can see it from a different perspective now.
Yeah. Again, it was made in 1951. It has those 1951 sort of vibes and qualities that opening scene where I mean, the credits are like, the Mellow Men, I think, are singing the song, maybe one of those type of groups. But what I wanted to draw attention to right out of the gate is as it's opening up, with these credits, one of the things that I noticed immediately in the opening caption, and I'll show it here, is it says an adaptation of Lewis Carroll's The Adventures of Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. So
Yes.
this is an amalgam of a couple of his books. Have you ever read the books?
Yes. I have, but it's been a while, and I've only read parts of, I think, Through the Looking Glass. But the parts in this movie that are Through the Looking Glass are actually three sections. There's the Tweedles. They were never in Alice in Wonderland book. They were in the Through the Looking Glass. The Singing Flowers section, and then, surprising enough, but the Tea Party, one of the most iconic, scenes and sections from this movie is actually from Through the Looking Glass.
Well, it wouldn't be the same without it, and that's one of the scenes that I like really resonate with. When it opens, though, this scene right here, I was shocked that that looked like it could have been from any Disney movie. Like I would not have if you had freeze framed that, and I know you get weirded out when I ask you trivia questions, but if you had freeze framed that and then said to me, "What movie is this?" I'm not sure I would have like said, "Oh, that's obviously the beginning of Alice in Wonderland," because we know it visually as the Mad Hatter and the Cheshire Cat and all of those things. I don't really think about that.
Yes. Now that looks more pastoral and serene, and you don't think about the craziness of Wonderland for that.
Honestly, it looks a lot like you and I reviewed Tinkerbell. It looks a lot like the opening of the Tinkerbell movie to me,
It kind of
right?
does. Yeah, I can see
Um,
that.
so the first thing we see is and I'm not going to go shot for shot through this necessarily, but the first thing we see when this opens up is that Alice is sitting. Well, we see someone sitting under a tree reading a book.
Her
I did
sister.
not process that was her sister though. Like I don't know why I
Oh,
didn't process that until we got to the end credits and my wife was watching it with me and I was like, her sister? And then she's like, yeah,
yeah.
they say that. And I was like, I don't think they do. I don't think they do say that it's her sister. I don't think she calls her sister. She really treats her like she's not a mom. She treats her almost like a tutor because again, I think that's what
Hmm.
she's trying to do is she's trying to share her lessons there. But I did not process that. Why do you know that's her sister? What
Oh,
did
from the
they?
book.
Oh, okay, all right. Also, it's credited as Alice's sister in the book.
Hmm.
Does she have a name?
I don't remember. I honestly don't recall if she has a name.
Maybe that's a trivia question I
She
have for
might
you
not.
later. Who knows?
Oh no! Look it
No,
up.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. Yeah. So she's reading this story to her. Do we know what book it is? I'm sure. I thought like for a minute, the evil side of me thought about like trying to figure out what that was, and then maybe say something. But
Terrible.
it's just yeah. I know. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Do you know what the book is though?
She, I don't know the book's title, but it's a history book because she talks about William the Conqueror,
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Well,
William the
we don't
First.
have to know that again. I'm going way too like granular on this one, um, but let's talk just about the fact that like I said, it has the hallmarks of an old school Disney movie. It's got that kind of like orchestral, singing men singing group or usually a choir at the beginning. We see the credits at the beginning and not at the end. And then once we start to see the scenery, it's that square format, that we used to
Hmm.
have on TVs when I was growing up. I don't think you necessarily had that when you were growing up, but we had this square formatting that it's funny to me was ever on a movie screen because I always see movie screens now as widescreen. Um, but the
Right.
colors here are still fairly bright, even though we're not in Wonderland yet. But those backgrounds are just like they're actually just so art.
They're beautiful watercolors. You know,
Yes.
listening about talking about Mary Blair and how her influence in, I mean, we reviewed Sleeping Beauty, we talked about it there, but here as well. And I think she studied watercolor. I think that's what her medium was originally. And then she took that trip to South America, wasn't it, with Walt? And then
Yeah.
she saw all the brilliant patterns and colors and that kind of thing. And that's kind of what defined her style going forward.
By the way, this is how I feel every time that I'm riding in the second or third row of Soren.
That is so 100% true.
Just the legs swinging, and it's just like stop, just stop it.
We call it,
You
my
know,
kids call it the stinky feet ride.
whenever, 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 sidebar, whenever we get in there, if I'm not in row one, I'm like, man, like I'm gonna try in my head not to be distracted by that, but I know every time I'm gonna be distracted by that. So, for those of
So
you who've
true.
never ridden Soren, it's great to be in row one. And hopefully that doesn't like ruin it for everyone else now. But anyway, so Alice is talking to her cat. She then sees the white rabbit. She goes down the rabbit hole, which is the joke that you made it when you came in. It was hilarious, and it only was made 3 other times in our Discord. Um, but
That's true.
it's one of these things. And going back to what we reviewed last week, which was Labyrinth, it's one of these things like Wizard of Oz or like Labyrinth where it's like was this a dream, was it not a dream, is she sleeping, is it real, and I don't know, do we know if that's a thing or does Lewis Carroll in the books leave that way open ended because it's different in the live action than it is here and they go back and I mean, I usually I would talk about that at the end, but it's one of those things where when she gets to the very end and she looks through the whole keyhole, she sees that she's sleeping, but when it starts,
Yeah.
she and Dinah see the white rabbit. So and Dinah sees it
Well, but
first.
there, true, but there is an element of a water droplet, or maybe it's her finger, and there's a ripple effect in the water, and then you start to see the rabbit through the ripples. So I think that I think that that is their transition from the real world into the dream world. And yes, exactly. And then all of a sudden you start to see the rabbit. So, and of course she dreams that the cat would see the, it wasn't mass hysteria here. That, everyone's having the same delusion. Maybe it was swamp gas or something. But so I don't remember. I think that it was a dream sequence in the entire book, Alice through in Wonderland. But if I
Yeah.
remember, the looking glass is different.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's just one of those things that, like, again, the end of Stranger Things. If you haven't seen Stranger Things, it's just one of those things where they were going they were a lot of people, including my daughter, were like, if they end this that it was all just a game of D&D, I'm gonna lose it. And
Right.
so so I always wonder, like, when we're watching this, I guess it's left to interpretation, but my interpretation, I want facts. I want it to be. I don't
No,
want to. Don't leave it up to me. You're the one who wrote it. You tell
yes.
me what it is, and I'll go along with it.
Mhm.
So I think it's a lot less clear in Labyrinth, but again, you'd have to go back and watch last week's review on that one that we did, which was me and Ron. It was a lot of fun. So back to this one though. As we get into this movie, like from this point, she goes down the rabbit hole. It's just bit after bit after bit, and it reminds me of when we talked about you and I talked about Snow White. Is that one of the things Walt was doing was he was like buying gags from people because he was so used to doing short form, and short form has gags in it, that he wanted there to be gags in this. And this is what it feels like. It feels like one gag after another. We have three gags or four with the Cheshire Cat, and then we have three or four with the caterpillar, and on and on. And I assume a lot of that was in the book, but it feels like, that it's just a bunch of different gags along the way. And is there a
Yes.
plot?
It
Is there a plot?
feels right. Well, it's her world, so we're really just living in it.
Yeah.
So I think that the problem is that it's the way that they sectioned it out. They were able to say these are vignettes, these are little stories, like you're saying, and the through line, the thing that takes you from one story to another is the white rabbit. The fact that she's chasing the white rabbit, and in the book, she's not necessarily doing that. So even it's more disjointed, even in the book, if you would, than in Walt's movie here, because she's able to continue through. She encounters all these different people, but she's still on her journey to chase the white rabbit until she gets to the told you would, and it's like, I give up, I just want to go home. That kind of thing. But it did feel a little, I think that was one of the criticisms when the movie first came out, is that it felt disjointed.
Yeah. Well, again, it's not that it's not entertaining. And a lot of the bits are good. It's very fast paced. That's the other thing about it too, is
Yes.
that sometimes these older movies are not fast paced. Some of the older ones, there's like a lot of downtime in them. This one, I feel like you're not wasting any of those 75 minutes. It keeps moving forward. We keep moving
Absolutely.
forward. Where have I heard that before? But when they're going
Yes.
through it, it's like it's the bits happen so quickly that it keeps you entertained all the way through. But it made me pause and go, is there a plot? It's just this girl running through and trying to find the white rabbit. Now in this one, she's 10 to 13, somewhere in that range. She's
Yes.
a younger girl, and she keeps saying, "Well, I'm just a little girl." In the live action, which we'll talk about like what came after near the end, but in most of
Mhm.
them, it feels like she's later teens in most of the stories.
Yes. I think that that was a liberty that they took. If in the older, the more darker version, if you will, Tim Burton's version, which actually, funnily enough, I think that it was more like the original sketches that were done for Walt for this movie, for this film. And Walt looked at that and said, "This is too dark. I want it lighter. None of this is going to work." But then, whenever, because if you see the actual sketches of the book
Storyboards.
and of the original storyboards, yes, the Cheshire Cat looks a little creepy, and that's how we ended up in the Tim Burton film. But the book itself, Lewis Carroll's book, is supposed to be about a girl coming of age. It's supposed to be about a girl going through puberty and getting used to her changing body, hence the bigger and smaller, growing taller, that kind of thing.
I took none of that from this story. Um, so I mean, if that's what you're looking for, Judy Blume does some great work. I'm saying
True.
let's stay in this world. There's a lot of stuff, again, like I said, this kind of like this Mandela effect of have we seen it, have we not? There's a lot of, I don't want to necessarily call it iconography, but like just iconic imagery in this thing that you're like, you see everywhere as a Disney fan, right?
Yes.
When we get to the door and you see this doorknob,
Oh,
like I feel like we've
absolutely.
seen this like in a million places.
That
Um,
was not in the book.
oh, well, I'm glad you've read it. And somebody here has to be literate. I'm glad it's you. So when I'm looking through this and I'm seeing all that stuff, it's just again the imagery is flooding through, and there's some things, even the music that I was, and we'll talk about that in a second, that I was just like, I don't recognize this, I don't know this, but there are all other things that I feel like I know intimately, like just the back of my hand. Like it's one of these things where I'm just like, this is so iconic because of Alice in Wonderland, because of Disneyland, because of Disney World, because of seeing
Yes.
it in other movies or shorts or whatever. It just feels like it feels very, very familiar, almost like just like home.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the sayings, like down the rabbit hole, it's just, in the colloquial terms that we use nowadays. And I think that that's what makes it more familiar too.
Now, is down the rabbit hole, is that a Lewis Carroll thing, or was that just for this movie?
No, it was a Lewis Carroll thing.
Okay. Um, yeah, and when I we started this, I was going to tell you like a very merry on birthday, obviously, because I needed to wish you a
Hmm.
very merry on birthday, and then I was going to say start at the beginning, and when you come to the end, stop, because I love that line. That's like the Mad Hatter. I just love that line because most people will say start at the beginning, but he brings it full circle. Start at the beginning, and then when you
Stop.
come to the end, stop. That was really good. But speaking of like lines that came from this, there's one that bothers me.
Hmm.
Um, because I thought the line, and again, Mandela effect, and I'm overusing that expression, maybe even misusing that expression, but I feel like it applies. The Cheshire Cat says, when she says, I don't want to follow somebody who's mad, I thought the phrase was, we're all mad here, but it's not.
Nope, it's not.
It's most everyone's mad here. That's one of those things,
Hmm.
again, through time, whether it evolved because somebody wrote it down wrong or somebody misquoted it or we just heard it wrong or as a society we just decided that it's easier to say we're all mad here. I don't know, but most everyone's mad here is what he says. It's the same thing as like
Yes.
sleeping, I mean Snow White, and a trivia question that we asked, which was, it's not mirror mirror, it's magic mirror.
Magic mirror.
But
That's right.
even the movie, there was a movie named Mirror Mirror because of it. So I think again we don't
True.
always pick up on that stuff, which is why it's really cool when Stephanie says, "Let's
Mhm.
rewatch Alice in Wonderland," to go back and rewatch Alice in Wonderland. So let's talk about the cast. This one introduces Catherine Beaumont,
Yes.
who was then later in
Wendy.
1953 Wendy. Yeah,
Hmm.
Wendy Moira Angela Darling. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so I met her, by the way.
What?
Yeah, I did.
Where?
The very first D23, the Disney Legends was not a big thing at that time. And so it was
Okay.
just another panel you could go to. And I went to that panel, and it was when John Goodman and Billy Crystal, I think, were inducted. And Robin Williams showed up. Robin Williams showed up
What?
in the room. Yeah, and that was one of those things that I think most people are like, I don't
You're
know what this
making this
is.
up.
I'm not making this up. Rue McClanahan. No,
Oh my
Betty White.
gosh.
Betty White? Betty White. Anyway, it because not I think Rue McClanahan couldn't make it, but I think the Golden Girls were inducted,
Okay.
and I think Betty
Okay.
White was the only one that could make it. But it was like
Still.
crazy. And then after everybody left, I went down on the floor because a lot of the Disney legends, like previous legends, were there. And I
Okay.
met and got autographs from Ex Antencio, the legendary Imagineer.
What?
Yeah. And
Yes.
also Catherine Beaumont, who was there as well. So, yeah, it was,
Oh my gosh.
because most people didn't know who they were.
Do you
And
have these
so
framed in your house somewhere in a
I have the
shrine?
signatures. I don't. I have the signatures
What?
somewhere. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. I have
That's
a
incredible.
like one of those like Disney Mickey Mouse autograph books. I'm a grown man who has one of those that has autographs from people like Wayne Allwine, the voice of Mickey before he
No
passed away,
way.
and yeah, and Catherine Beaumont, and yeah, it was amazing. Anyway, so Catherine Beaumont
I'm
did
so
an
jealous.
incredible job in this movie. Did just an incredible
Yes.
job, especially for somebody who this is her first outing to be able to do this. And I think she has this. It's like a grown up child, like a very
Yes.
well mannered child voice.
Mhm.
Like it's
Mhm.
she's very very purposeful and direct and stern while still being a child. And again, the cadence of her, and I don't know if it was direction or the way it was written or if it was just her, but the cadence of how she delivers it, I feel like is pretty amazing.
Oh, absolutely superb. But the one thing that she would admit to is that she wasn't the strongest singer. I think they kind of played on that in Golden Afternoon when she's trying to hit that high note.
Well, she's just a weed, is what she is. Um, so it's Catherine Beaumont. Again, getting into the cast, Ed Wynn,
Oh,
quintessential Disney
Uncle
Ed
Albert.
Wynn.
Yes.
Yes, Uncle Albert from Mary Poppins. Big Poppins fan over here, y'all. But the Mad Hatter in this one, and so he was one of those that you would hear a lot. Sterling Holloway as the Cheshire Cat, which is so funny that the voice of
So good.
Winnie the Pooh
Winnie the Pooh.
is Ka and Cheshire Cat. Like, how does all of that
Yes.
work? Because he's not doing different
And it
voices; he's
does.
just him. But it's like the Ka thing, the
Right.
trust in me, so creepy. And then this one, the Cheshire Cat, so madcap. And then
Mhm.
the fact that like he could be sweet little Winnie the Pooh as well is pretty amazing. With they all sound exactly the same. Jerry
Mhm.
Colonna
Tell you what.
as the March Hare. Pat O'Malley did the voice of the Walrus and the Carpenter, and
Mhm.
Tweedledee and Tweedledum, which is crazy.
Mhm.
Now Verna Felton as the Queen of Hearts is again Disney royalty because she did
Yes.
so many roles in and she did a lot of voice work and a lot of like sitcom work back in the day too. But she was the fairy godmother
Mhm.
in Cinderella. She was the Queen of Hearts in this. Um, and then in Dumbo, she was one of the head elephant matriarch in that one. So it's just really neat that she was in so many of those things, which goes back to something you and I have talked about all the time. Is I feel like they would go out on the Disney lot and just go, "Hey, you working today? Come over here. We're doing something."
Yes. But the interesting thing is that because the difference between, like you said, Cheshire Cat, Winnie the Pooh, Caw, Sir Hiss, they all sound similar, but they're all very like you can picture them as the character. You know, each it's his voice, but you can picture each character within his voice. She has unique voices for each character. And you wouldn't necessarily know it's her, you know? But you can listen to the Cheshire Cat and picture Winnie the Pooh in the tree.
Yeah. By the way, I'm looking at the chat, and TSN 99 899 says that it's their on birthday today. So weird, like that. So many
Oh,
people have so happy on
so
birthday.
many.
Yeah, exactly. Fire Chief said, "Congratulations, Tan." Yeah, that's it's a lot of fun to hang out. Thank you guys for being here and live, and we see you. We see you. This is again the cast. It's quintessential Disney. I feel like we've talked about in the past how like they didn't really use a lot of star power, but the people they used over and over again, who kind of in our minds became stars. In the fact that at the time maybe they weren't as well known, but they it wasn't one of those things where like, oh, we're doing the B movie, we got to get Jerry Seinfeld. Like it's just one of these where they're like, you know, nowadays it
Yes.
feels like that it's all about the star voices. I don't know if you've seen the preview for the Cat in the Hat.
No.
So Bill Hader is going to be the voice of the Cat in the Hat in the new animated Cat in the Hat movie that's coming out, and then the commercial they go boom 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 with all the names, and you hear like that thud thud thud
Oh.
thud with all the names that are going to be in it because that's a big deal. Is who are the names in this? Um, but it's still a
Well,
good
they
cast.
did They did want to have some bigger names. Like I think it wasn't Grace Kelly. It was yeah, it was somebody like that because she was young at the time and they were thinking about making it into a live action back then, and they were going to have her, but then the war broke out and things and everything changed into it being a cartoon. But they were going to have some big names originally, I think. And of course, Ed Wynn and some of these others came from vaudeville, and so they're very well known for their slapstick and that kind of thing, for you know what it was back then.
Yeah. As we're talking about that, I'm remembering the Alice comedies and the fact that like
Yes.
Walt was, that was one of the first things he did was those Alice comedies, and it makes me wonder like why did it take so long to get to this one?
Um, let's see. He always wanted to turn it into a feature film, I think. But he again, I think it was through a number of different reasons. Like they started with the storyboard and the drawings originally, and he thought they were too dark and he didn't like it, and he wanted it to be a little bit lighter, more fanciful. And then the war broke out and they had to shelve it for another purpose. And then, then he started with uh, Snow White as being more, and when that was successful, and then he was able to produce, Cinderella, and all the people got onto that one, and they stopped the project work on this one. I think it just got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back until it finally came to fruition.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, it maybe like some of the things that he did, I think he wanted to get right. Like I think that's why he never did the Snow Queen.
True. Hmm.
Movies that we don't didn't see until later. If you ask some people, he really wanted a tower at the Polynesian, but
Right.
remember
Right.
that. Anyway, let's. So again, the Alice comedy is kind of the beginning, and then we're going to talk at the end kind of about how this gets integrated into the parks, etc., and then things that followed from it. But just like A. Milne, Winnie the Pooh, they didn't invent Alice in
Hmm.
Wonderland, but they
No,
kind of reinvented it to the point where it is the kind of the quintessential knowing of Alice in
it's
Wonderland. Like
actually
people,
a good adaptation too.
yeah, if people are getting tattoos and things, sometimes it's the Lewis Carroll, but most of the time I feel like it's the ones from the Disney movie. Let's talk about the music because it's not the Sherman Brothers. This
No.
kind of predates the Sherman Brothers a little bit, I guess, on some things. But what's interesting to me about the music is the score is Oliver Wallace, but the rest of it is like all over the place. I read some stuff that said that because, and probably to your point about them working on this for so long, is that there were like 80 songs written for this because based on all of the storyboards and things, and so much of it
Yes.
never made it in, and some of it just little blips of it made it in, which is probably why there were so many of these things that I didn't recognize. Like the I'm Late song we know about because we hear all the time. Golden Afternoon we hear all the time. Birthday song we hear all the time. Painting the Roses Red probably hear that a lot.
Yes.
But like, and some of it, I'm just like, 'Twas Brillig, the caucus race, I'm late. Oh no, I'm not. I'm
Hmm.
late. The sailor's hornpipe, like some of this stuff. I'm like, what? And I think the sailor's hornpipe is the thing that the dodo is singing when he's like coming through the water. Um,
Hmm.
there's a lot of it that I just don't know because so there's music that is, like I said, very familiar to me, and then there's music that is completely unfamiliar to me. Do you have that too, or do you just know it all?
The twas brilling and the slimy toads or whatever it says. That is the Jabberwocky poem.
Ah,
So my kids had to memorize that. I think it's third grade. Pretty sure it's third grade. They had to memorize a few of these. They had to memorize How Doth the Little Crocodile from Lewis Carroll as well. So my kids sang it to be able to memorize it. And so that really kind of helped. Thank you, Disney. But the other ones, yeah, I think that this music is very transitional too. So we're talking about each thing being its own segment, and so maybe you're paying attention to the characters or whatever's happening in the sequence, but you're not listening to it has its own music, and then it moves on to the next thing. So maybe that's what you're not paying much attention to.
Yeah, like in musicals, there's a showstopper where like the story just halts and then we just dance and sing. I feel like that's. Is this a problem? Is this okay? Um,
Oh, it's good.
and we just dance and sing, and it doesn't further the story along, right?
Hmm.
I
Right.
feel like there's not a lot of that in here. And maybe what you're saying is there's the stuff that the music is used to move the story along, whatever it may be.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
the Golden Afternoon definitely feels like a showstopper. Like we just stop down
Yes.
and we just sing with the flowers for a little bit.
Hmm.
The same thing I would say with painting the roses red, maybe a little bit, because it gets a little heffalumps and woozles with the cards and the psychedelicness. It's almost like
Yes.
we went from psychedelic to super psychedelic in that scene with the cards and like they're different colors, and it just feels very
Hmm.
heffalumps and woozles to me, that particular scene. So,
It does.
um,
And this movie has the most songs out of any Disney movie, which honestly I did not realize. You're talking about the ones that you don't pay attention to as much. But I mean, the whole story about the oysters is sung basically. So that's one song right there. And you don't realize that you're listening to so many different tunes. And interesting enough, the one at the beginning where she sings about her Wonderland, and she's
mhm.
in the field of daisies and everything, the original music for that is actually Second Star to the Right. They used it later on in Peter Pan.
There was another Peter Pan song. I think it was "Never Smile at a Crocodile." Maybe that was a song that was in this one, got cut, and then they used it as that one instead. That I had
Yeah.
read about. So again, it looks like this was like a group effort to make this music.
Hmm.
Because again, looks like it went through a lot of different iterations. But let me just show that scene with the cards that seems so psychedelic because you know beware, beware,
Right.
be very, very aware. Like, right? Like it feels like heffalumps and
Yes.
woozles.
Or the Elephants on Parade from Dumbo.
That's a good that's a good point as well. You got me. Um, all right, so let's stop down for a second. I want to thank everybody for being here. If you haven't already, please give us a like. It can't, and after this is over, please give us some comments below. Just let us know what you thought, what you think of this movie, what you thought of the review, what you thought of Stephanie's background, whatever. Just I don't know. I'm just ta-da. But because that helps people as well to find it, and I feel like we've got a lot of great content here. We want to spread it out to a lot of other people. But thank you guys for being here tonight, for being with us live, or for watching on demand later. We appreciate you. Now is when I like to stop and ask some trivia questions because normally I reach out to these folks and I say, hey, what would you like to do? And then they're usually the ones that say, oh, this is my favorite movie, or I love this one, or I watch this one all the time, or this one's and Patrick or Tyler, or, in Tyler's way, it's like, this is a piece of garbage. I would love to watch it and talk about it. That's what Tyler likes to do. And he and I are finding something really special for the next time he comes back.
Hot piece of
But
garbage.
uh, it, we're working on it. Um, so anyway, so I have some trivia questions for my good friend Stephanie because she loves this. It's her favorite. She definitely doesn't
So
feel
fun.
like she is in an unsafe place when I start asking her questions. She definitely feels comfortable with all of this. I'm only going to ask 5 questions. I have more, but I'm only going to ask
Of course.
5. So I'm feeling most of them will be easy, but a lot of times I'll say that and they won't be, and a lot of
You
times I'll
say it
say
every
that and you'll
time.
get them all 5. So we'll never know. The first one is when the movie starts out, Alice is in the tree with Dinah. Dinah has a bow around her neck. What color is that bow?
I want to say pink.
Is that what you're gonna say? You want to say that? Is that what you're gonna say?
I I'm going to say it, but watch it turn out to be red or something.
No, it's pink. You got it right.
Okay.
Um, yeah. You're doing good. You're 1 for 1. That beautiful scene that opened up that I said looked so generic. How many swans are in the water in that scene? I just showed it to you.
Two. I know. I sure two. I don't know.
That is correct. There are 2. You're on a roll. I told you this is so easy.
Oh gosh.
When Alice is explaining her nonsense world to Dinah, she says, "In my world, you wouldn't say meow. You would say what?"
Uh, yes, Miss Alice,
Nailed it.
or some.
That is
Oh,
word for word on that one. Yes, Miss Alice. Exactly what she said. See how easy that is? Tweedledee and Tweedledum tell the story of the walrus and the carpenter, but they say the story has another name. What is the other name of the story?
um, it's something to the effect of the how the oysters took a walk, or something about oysters walking.
I'm not sure I can give
I
that to
think.
you. That's not.
Ah,
That's the story of the curious oysters.
curious. Okay.
That's what it's called. So it's the walrus and the carpenter, or the story of the curious oysters. Now I will tell you, you've met my wife. She picked that one out. She was like, "Wait,
It's a
what
good
were
one.
those? What were those titles?" Yeah, exactly. Um, so that's four, right? So you got the pink, the you pull you pulled the swans out of nowhere, the yes Miss Alice, and then you missed it on that one. Oh man, I've got so many things. I was going to ask you why is a raven like a writing desk, but I'm not going to ask you that one. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. Um, okay, the last one. You ready?
Sure.
When Alice is following the white rabbit, she goes down the rabbit hole. She's in a room. To get to the room with the doorknob, she has to open some doors. How many doors does she open to get into that room?
I don't remember.
It's like a
Three?
Russian. It's like a Russian nesting doll where she's opening doors. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right? You're familiar with that scene.
Yes. I don't
Yeah.
remember how many. How many?
What did you just say though? What is your official answer?
Three.
Yeah, that is not it. It's a good guess though. That is a good guess though. So here's one opened,
Mhm.
two, three, four,
Ah,
five.
come on.
Five doors. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm literally the worst. You're welcome.
I have a
Uh,
question for you then.
I love it when you do that. I love it when you do that. Go ahead.
What is Rule 42?
You know, when you say that, the first thing I think about is Hercules when Phil is yelling rules at Herc. Rule 42. I'm going back through my head and
The king reads it out of a big book at Alice's trial.
Rule 42 is that you can't be anybody more than a mile high gets kicked out of the kingdom.
Good job.
Is that right? Thanks.
Gets out of the court.
The other questions I was going to ask you was what was the lizard's name? These are freebies. Bill.
I
They
don't know.
make a big deal
Bill,
about
okay.
that because it's like a lizard with a ladder, which again, so crazy.
Chimney
When the
sweep.
walrus and the carpenter make their little fish restaurant, they have a sign up in the outside that's called Fish Dinners. I was going to ask you what that was. I was going to ask you who was painting the roses, and it was the ace, two, and three of clubs.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't ask that.
And then when she's walking through the woods and she steps on the horn, I was going to ask you how many baby horns were with the mama horn. There were
Oh,
four. And
four.
then
Yeah.
this one would have been probably easy as what is the number on the Mad Hatter's hat?
10/6.
That is correct. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Thank you for playing along. I appreciate it. I didn't check and see, but I'm sure that Fire Chief scored you accordingly. He
Sure.
usually does. Yeah. that was rooting you along. She was on the right track. Talking about some of that. Before we move back into what we were talking about, there was a piece in the movie that bothered me. When the walrus and the carpenter story is going on, they Pied Piper the oysters out of the water, and the oysters are adorable. I've seen merchandise for the oysters. They're just these little cute oysters. I feel like one of the wishables was the oyster maybe for the Alice ride. So they lure them out. They go to the restaurant. The carpenter goes to make a ridiculous amount of food, which always gets me in a story when like there's so much food you don't need to eat the oysters because you had bread and whatever else you could build a whole restaurant from nothing. It feels like you did not need to eat these baby oysters, but they cut to the walrus and then they show the empty shells in front of him, and basically there was a murder that just happened.
Yes.
That's pretty dark.
It is.
Because they make them so
And
cute.
Alice says that. And she says that was a very sad story. He said, yes, but it's with a moral lesson.
Jay Ware said, now they're all dead.
Yes.
I mean, but again, they were all so cute. And then like they just showed like the oyster like this, almost like on all of the empty ones, and the walrus has eaten them all. And that was the thing. So that's why it was the story of the curious oysters.
Don't be so trusting, kiddos. It's
Yep.
like a Little Red Riding Hood.
Yep, exactly. Do you have a favorite character in this outside of Alice?
Outside of
Well,
Alice?
yeah, like a Wonderland character. Let's put it that way.
I would have to go with the Mad Hatter.
Yeah.
I think he's one. Yeah, I think he's really fun.
Okay. Um, I mean, we definitely meet some interesting characters in this thing between like, the dodo and the white rabbit, and the caterpillar is definitely one. I feel like for most people, it's the Cheshire Cat.
See, and he drives me a little nuts.
Well, they're all mad here.
They're all mad. Yes,
Yes.
most of us.
Yeah. And then there's these fellas.
Yeah, they're just odd.
Yeah. They're fairly odd fellows. Um, yeah. I mean, and again, it just goes back to what I was saying about so much that's iconic about this movie, that when you go to like the Magic Kingdom and there are all these meet and greets, you can meet Alice or the White Rabbit, or you don't usually see Cheshire Cat as one of them, or obviously the Caterpillar, but Tweedledee and Tweedledum or the Mad Hatter. These are ones that like we see in a lot of different occasions. I know that at Epcot they have Alice at the like right outside the Twinings Tea in that little garden in the back. What was interesting this last time we just went for the Festival of the Arts is that normally she's in that archway near the path. This time she was back by the building.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing that I think is so funny is I don't know how many people I've met in my life that are like, I wanted to be Alice at a Disney park.
Well,
I hear it.
yeah,
I hear it all the time. I don't know why.
yeah.
Maybe they just like relate to Alice a little bit better. I don't know.
I think
I
it's
mean,
more fun and freeing when you're playing a little kid and you can be silly with versus like a princess is prim and proper and that kind of thing. Maybe that's why.
kind of like Peter Pan, like being that character.
Yes.
You know who I think should be Alice at some point? I think is probably. I mean,
A few more years.
a few more years and she'll be there. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so do you think this stays? We talked about the fact this was an amalgam or piecings from two of the Lewis Carroll books. Do you think that in general it's pretty faithful?
Yes, I do actually. And with the actual lyrics, I mean the lyrics to the songs, but the words that they use as well, because a lot of times you can take some freedom. You can have the same kind of scene that's happening as mirroring the book, but maybe the the content is a little bit different. And this is actually fairly close to the original text, which I appreciate.
Yeah. So we get to the Queen of Hearts, which, by the way, again, is another character that you can meet sometimes, and it's rare, but you
She's
can
fun.
meet. Yeah. So the Queen of Hearts, and then that is a whole different vibe because that's like a castle courtyard, trimmed bushes, the weirdness of the cards being the soldiers and all that kind of stuff, and the king being so tiny and yes dear and all of that kind of. It's just a very unique. It's almost like another chapter. It's like a completely different world. If I was playing a video game, I would feel like I'd gone onto a different world at this point from where we were before, which is
Yes.
kind of how this whole thing is set up because she's in the land of like, the water, that the weird room, and then she's cries herself into water that takes her to the dodo and the fish walking around drying themselves, that takes her to find Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and that takes us to the story of the walrus and the carpenter, which then she finds the Cheshire Cat, she finds the Mad Hatter, she finds the caterpillar, she finds the flowers. Like, she is going on this journey, which is, pretty cool. And then at the very end, when they're in the courtroom scene, it's a great time to bring a lot of those characters back. We see the Cheshire Cat again, we
Yes.
see the March Hare, we see the Dormouse, we see the White Rabbit. We don't see the caterpillar, I don't think, because
Right.
caterpillar's turned into a beautiful butterfly and gone somewhere else.
In this
But
version.
in this, oh, is he in the court scene in the book?
No, but he's still Caterpillar in the book. And the court scene is completely different. This is the most divergent that the movie version and the book version are. So there's a whole nother character, whole nother scene that got cut out of the original of, the storyboard for this film, with the Duchess and her baby that turns into a pig and this kind of thing. And so that is this scene makes more sense to me. And you're talking about it feeling more like what's the plot of the story kind of thing. I think if they had left the original in, and it would have really made not very much sense to anybody. This makes more sense, like you said, to bring in the witnesses, and it's the people that you've already seen, the characters you've already seen.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's a neat way to wrap this up. By the way, all of the birds look like Jose from Three Caballeros to me. I don't know
They
why.
do. They so
Like,
do.
I was like, is this like some kind of an Easter egg where they're kind of hiding the Three Caballeros in here? But I mean, like, the one at the top and the one at the bottom both look like the Three Caballeros Jose, and then the one in the very bottom looks kind of like Archimedes from The Sword and the Stone. I don't know.
Mm,
The one in the middle
yes.
could be like a Panchito sort of a situation. Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
it's I
true.
mean, again, I just every time I saw it, that's what I was thinking. You very unique artwork though. Again, everything in the courtroom, just like everything in this thing, is like it's kind of stilted and distorted and bent and out of shape and very strange, and it's all nonsense, just like Alice's world. But I love that they bring all the characters back. They're chasing her out. She sees herself. She yells, "Hey, Alice, wake up! Hey,
Mhm.
Alice, wake up!" And then she wakes up, and then she goes on her merry way. And then in curtain, the end. It's all great. Um, but yeah, so we're gonna talk a little bit. We'll recap what, like, your thoughts. Is there anything else about the movie that you want to talk about before we move on to talk about Parks and what came after?
Yeah, so the book and the movie, because like I said, this is a fairly, you know, s- good adaptation of Lewis Carroll's, original work. So I didn't know this until I started reading about him, but he was a mathematician at Oxford, I believe. And so very logical. He taught math and logic. And so for him to write something that is illogical and whimsical doesn't make much sense to people, or on the surface, actually. But there's a lot of mathematical lessons in this story. How far how many meters she's falling down the rabbit hole, and how tall she grows, and she has to figure out, in between the short and the tall. And I find it really funny that, he would take something that is so, 1 plus 1 is 2. There's no wiggle room. And he says, well, in my world, as Alice says, every one is upside down, yes is no and no is yes kind of thing.
Yeah. Um, yeah, obviously brilliant the way that he wrote everything. But what I find is something that you mentioned about the Jabberwocky is something that,
Yes.
like, is a big deal in the live action, but also the entire time my wife is watching this with me, she's like, "Oh, that's from the Jabberwocky. Oh, that's also, you know." So
Yes.
I think that you guys both have the literary side of it down. I'm just the idiot who watches a child's movie and goes, "Oh, pretty," um, So I'm glad that you that you had that as a takeaway from it. Um, but
He
yeah,
also played with what words mean, because he would say, things that kind of like from a kid. Almost, I have a daughter with dyslexia, and it kind of sounds like her speaking, like, if you say paschetti instead of spaghetti or something. He in her world, in Alice's world, that could mean spaghetti, but it's said in a different way. It's just fun because, again, it's illogical, but it actually has logic within it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I love that. So uh, let's move on for a second because this inspired obviously a lot of things in the park. Disneyland opened
Yes.
up in 1955. This movie came out in 1951, so it makes sense that this would be out there. I remember the very first time I went to Disneyland, I thought there's a lot more Alice stuff here than there is in Disney World because there's a teacup ride and some meet and greets, and then you're kind of done in Disney World. But out in Disneyland,
Right.
they had the teacups and the Alice in Wonderland ride and the Mad Hatter shop. And so it
Mm-hmm.
felt like almost like a miniature world of
Mm-hmm.
Alice in Wonderland inside of Disneyland. They I also feel like they lean Poppins a little bit more, which is probably again a
They
little
do.
bit of a touch of Walt probably and how important these IPs were to him. So when I was out there and we rode the Alice ride, I was thinking to myself, why isn't this a Disney World? The Alice ride is so fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, but it's weird. It's an Alice ride, so it should be weird. The fact that you go in and you come outside, and then for some reason they just make you do this back and forth outside,
Mm-hmm.
and you ride in a caterpillar, and you go back in, and then you're done. And it's awesome. It's one of my favorites, but it's also usually a very long ride. It's kind of like Peter Pan in the fact that it's a very short ride, low capacity, so there's almost always a line. People are nostalgic for it or wanted to see it because they've never seen it, that kind
Mm-hmm.
of a thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then in Disney, in I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not that I went to Tokyo Disneyland. Do we have that conversation?
Did you?
Did I mention
Did I
that?
know that?
Hmm.
May have forgotten.
Um, they actually have the Queen of Hearts banquet hall, which is
Ooh.
a restaurant in Tokyo Disneyland that is themed to the Queen of Hearts, and they have some cool food, but there's a lot of cool theming inside the restaurant. It was one of the best maybe themed restaurants that I had
Oh.
seen. It's got to let the banquet begin right over top of what is kind of a cafeteria style, and you walk through and you pick out your food and everything. But it is very reminiscent of what you would expect this movie come to life would be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
Oh, that's
again,
beautiful.
we were checking out. We were buying our food and checking out, and the woman held up this like replica tray because I was noticing that the trays were pretty cool, and she held up this replica tray, and my wife was like, "No, thank you." I was like, "But."
Yes, please. Yes. That is cool.
Yeah, so it's the Queen of Hearts banquet hall, and a lot of the trays are themed in Japan, but like I was like, they should do this for all of them in Japan, and I would have bought every
Right?
single one of them because they had one for the snug. I mean, the Snuggly Duckling had trays, and it's like, why can't I buy that? Why can't I buy the miniature version of that? But I just, my wife was like, no, we don't. I was like, we do need that. We
Yes,
should
we
have
do.
that. Uh, so anyway, so they have that, and then they also have like these cool stained glass windows that show like the carpenter and the walrus, which
Oh.
you don't usually see the carpenter represented, and he's got the bread, and so all the different characters are there from that, and yeah, that's kind of neat.
No, that's
Um,
beautiful. And the
what?
colors are so bright and vibrant.
Yeah, for sure. Anything in particular in the parks that like stands out for you for Alice in Wonderland that you think do they need to
I
do
mean, I've
something more
only
than they've
been to the
done?
domestic parks. Yes, they do. And I will tell you why, because they used to have a breakfast at my 1900 Park Fair, Grand Floridian, thank you, that
Uh
was
huh.
all the British characters. So it was Poppins and sometimes Bert. And you had Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, or Eeyore, and Pooh. And then you had Alice and the Mad Hatter. And the Mad Hatter, if you get to see him at a Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party or somewhere, he is so much fun. And they definitely need to bring that breakfast back to the Magic Kingdom. But also, he walks around sometimes. In fact, when I worked there, they used to have it where Alice would come out around the Mad Tea Party area with the Tweedles and I think the Mad Hatter, and they would kind of just do a walkthrough once in the morning and kind of open the park, if you would.
All on a golden afternoon.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think there needs to be more of that, and I've said a million times, and I think Benjamin in chat said it earlier. Is like every time that we talk about one of these movies, it's the thought is like, why isn't that a dark ride or some
Yes.
IP that we see in the parks? Because we're getting Encanto, and we're gonna get we have like some representation of Zootopia, but like there's no 101 Dalmatians. Where's that? Like that's I mean
Right.
that's a classic Disney movie. There should be some more representation than just the All Star movies. There's I mean
Yeah,
there
Tony's Town Square.
that's Lady and the Tramp.
Oh, that's true. Well, there is Villains Land coming, and I'm sure Cruella is going to be a big part of that.
True that Cruella is in uh, she is in the villain show. So
Mhm.
yeah. So the other thing is that this spawned obviously a live action movie with Johnny Depp, where he's really more the star than Alice is. I feel like in some ways, and then the
Yes.
spinoff or the sequel, which I think was one of the first modern. It wasn't the first live action sequel because 102 Dalmatians I think was the first live action sequel, but it was the
Right.
first one of the modern age movies of these live action adaptations of animation that had its own sequel. Um, and so that had a different vibe to it. I don't know
Very.
how how you feel about that one.
I think it's more in line with the original drawings. Like if you, you know, okay, so if you actually go back to the very, very original, it was actually Alice Underground, I think, was Lewis Carroll's first work, and he hand drew the illustrations. He was the one that did them. And then when he wrote Alice in Wonderland and it made it an actual publication, I can't remember who the artist was, but he had somebody else do the artwork for that. And the heads were very exaggerated, enlarged, and like I said, the Cheshire Cat looked very creepy. So it wasn't the cute little cuddly thing that you see in this movie. So I do think that Tim Burton, it fit his style, fit more in line with these original drawings from the Alice in Wonderland version of the
Well,
book.
in addition to the two movies, they also made an attraction, sort of a nighttime party that would happen at Disney California Adventure, which was the Mad Tea Party, but it was based on
That's
that
right.
version, not the not this version. And it was again that sort of the Tim Burton style of Alice in Wonderland story. This before that it was electronica, which I loved, so I was sad to see that go. But I think a lot of people famously loved this offering. I don't want to call it an attraction because they just
Mm,
basically took the Hollywood backlot and they made it a party at night to give people something to do while everyone else was down at World of Color. There was something else to do on the other side, which I
that's
thought was a
awesome.
really neat thing to do. And then there was a musical called Wonderland on Broadway that I got to see, but it had nothing to do with Disney, which I still
Oh.
feel like they should do.
Mhm.
I mean, we've
Yeah, they
seen
totally could.
Frozen and Little Mermaid and Hercules now come to West End or to Broadway. It would be
Mhm.
nice, I think, to
Aladdin.
see an Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, Aladdin.
Yeah. Mhm.
So that would be a cool thing to see happen. But
Can I
then
tell
there,
you one of my original things of me getting into Disney, I guess, when I was younger, was when we
please,
finally got the Disney Channel and there was a live action TV show, and I think it was just called Alice. Was
Adventures
it
in
Alice?
Wonderland.
That's it. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And I
Yeah.
just remembered there were rollerblades. Somebody was rollerblading. Maybe it was the Mad Hatter. And I just loved that show. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember thinking that this was because she would jump in and out of the looking glass to be able to get into Wonderland.
Yeah. No, that was one of those things that I think again, if that is this the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. So 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna talk about that one. So there was Adventures in Wonderland, and ABC did a spinoff of a show that you and I reviewed, which is the review was Once Upon a Time. This was called Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, where it was
Yes.
just Wonderland
Mhm.
because Alice wasn't in. Everyone else, Doctor Frankenstein, all the most random characters showed up in Storybrooke, but
Mhm.
in this particular world, I don't think we ever saw Alice, but Alice got her own series called Once Upon a Time in Wonderland, which lasted not even a full season, or maybe just one season. But
It was
again,
one.
they, as you talked about, it was liberties where they took liberties of her being much older and finding a love interest um, and so on. So yeah, so that's kind of what came after, the original. But I still think there's road here. I think that there's stuff they could do in the parks. I think that you could do a Broadway musical. I think you could do more with this because it is so loved. I see so many, like I
Yes.
said, Alice tattoos, lounge flies. I don't have a lot. Like I wore this Mickey, Sorcerer Mickey shirt tonight because it felt very, kind of psychedelic, Alice in Wonderland out there. But like I would have loved to have had the popcorn bucket that was the teacup stacked. I think that was a Japan thing.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, you've seen that one. But I don't really have other than my Queen of Hearts tray. I don't really have a lot of like merch or T-shirts or things like that. But there are people that just live and breathe it, so they should do more. I feel like.
Yes. She definitely has the following.
Yep. Speaking of a following, I want to thank our Patreon or our pack. We love our pack, the Park Adventurers Club. Thank you guys so much for being our community. And if you don't know about it, you can go to patreon.com/go pack, find out more. But part of the perk is that you can be in our Discord and share stories and things with us and with other passionate Disney fans. And if you enter at certain levels, we got stickers and we got buttons and things, but we would love to have you be part of that group. So again, that's patreon.com/go pack PAC. I always say that because there's no K. It's just PAC.
That's right.
I met there was a gentleman who I was on his show. He supports our channel, Pete McDevitt. He's a great guy. I met him actually in person last weekend at the Festival of the Arts. He was so gracious, so nice. What a lovely man. And when I was on his show, he would always call it. He was like the PAC. The PAC, and I just was like, I kind of love that he did that, but we call it the pack. But again, thank you guys so much for being members of the pack, and a special shout out to our Zebra Mezzanine and Treasure Room folks. You can also follow us on any social media at Park ADV Club, and that's X's fault because it wouldn't let me say Park Adventures, so now everything's Park ADV Club. But we're on everything, so come check us out. And then also coming up, I want to, I've got it right here, kind of show you guys what we have coming up tonight. This is where you are, a look on the plus side, Alice in Wonderland 1951. This Friday night, my son is doing something which we call Hakuna Trivia, where he does trivia questions with 3 live victims, guests. Did I say victims? I meant guests. He does, he writes his own questions. It's done like a Jeopardy style board. He makes these people suffer, but then the chat can jump in, and if you're live in chat, you can like help steal. Usually the chat wins, by the way. No spoilers there, but I do want to tell you one of the categories this week, because Stephanie, you've seen it. I know that one of the things you loved was the Where's My Water, where he showed different Walt Disney World fountains, and you had to guess where they were. This week he's doing a thing called Disney Doodles, where he's had people who he knows create doodles of movies, and you have to identify the movie from the doodle. He gave me this as an example. Can you identify this one? Yeah, Ratatouille, exactly. One of his friends did that one. So he has people who are really good at art and people who are really bad at art. So I guess as you get to the 1,000 question, it's going to be who was really bad at art, and that'll be the thing. So
that's cool.
That'll be on Friday night at 8:30. That'll be live. And then Sunday night at 8:30, we do our Park Adventurers Club. And Stephanie, you're coming back for that one, I think, right?
Yes.
And then next Wednesday night, Patrick Hackett is going to be here for us to do another look on the plus side. And we're going to talk about the movie with, I feel like this is a very forgotten film. It was Adam Sandler in a movie called Bedtime Stories. So if you're doing the homework, if you're watching ahead, please go ahead and watch that movie. We would love to have you guys come hang out with us at all of the stuff that we're doing here, but make sure to follow us on the Park Adventurers Club. And you can find us anytime at parkadventuresclub.com. That's the end of the pitch. But now is the time, Stephanie. Now is the best time because I get to ask you, the Disney expert. You are the Disney expert in your realm, as many of the people who are in chat are the Disney experts in their realm. And somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, you know what? I was flipping through Disney Plus and I saw all these Alice in Wonderland things, but I saw this one from 1951 that's like 75 years old. I think the question at hand is, Stephanie, would you recommend this movie?"
I do, and I recommend it for a multitude of ages because it's not just little kids, it's not just adults. Everybody can appreciate and enjoy this. The artwork is beautiful. It's not Sleeping Beauty beautiful to me, where you can freeze one of the frames of that film and just hang it on your wall. But this is also in its own style very gorgeous. The colors are vibrant, very saturated hues. They're very bright and fun, but at some points they do get a little bit wacky, like you said, elephants on parade, or have lumps and woozles, a little bit psychedelic. So it is a fun film, and it is very imaginative. So I definitely give it 2 thumbs up. I say recommend it, and I certainly put it on my list. If you're headed to a Disney park, especially if this is the first time for you, or whomever you're bringing with you, your children, if you've never been, this is definitely one that you need to watch before you go.
Yeah. Okay. I would also recommend this one for all the reasons you said, but one of the things I look at when I'm looking at one of these older movies that are Disney classic is it can't just be a classic and therefore you have to watch it. I think it has to really sort of stand the test of time, and I think this one does. As I'm watching it, it has, as I mentioned, it doesn't get slow. It has a good cadence to it. And if you haven't watched it in a while, I think you should do yourself a favor and rewatch it, because it's been so long for me that when I watched it, I was just like, I don't remember this. My wife was, I don't remember this. So I think that's one of the fun things about Disney Plus and this show, is that we're kind of bringing to light some of the things that maybe you wouldn't just open up Disney Plus and go to. You may go into it to see Percy Jackson or the Fantastic Four movie that just dropped, or Tron Ares or something recent. But there's so much in this catalog that we kind of bring it to the top and give you a look on the plus side, about what's available. But I would highly recommend this, and also exactly what you said, Stephanie. It's not only Disney, like quintessential Disney, but there are some things that don't affect you if you go to the parks that you would never see. Like, again, 101 Dalmatians does not have a lot of references in the parks. This one does have references in the parks. You don't want to just be walking through Epcot and see this, like, who's that girl in the blue dress? I don't even know. Is that Belle? Who knows? Why is she blonde? So we would like to hear your feedback. And again, thank you so much to everybody in the chat tonight, Benjamin and Fire Chief, and I saw Jay Ware and Ronald and TS or Tan, and I was trying to think if I missed anybody else in here. I guess we're going to have to mark Care Bear absent for this one. But thank you guys for being with us in the chat. Thanks for being part of the pack. Please come hang out with us more. We love it. This is the whole reason that we're doing this. And again, hopefully you'll join us Friday night for Hakuna Matrivia, Sunday night for our park show, which is the Park Adventures Club, or Wednesday night for another look on the plus side. Again, thank you, Stephanie, for being here. Appreciate you. Thanks for picking this. Hopefully we get you back again soon.
Thank you, Rob.